24-hour cameras, wildlife sitcom and drama, emotional cliffhangers. Reality TV at its best. The difference? The actors, African wildlife. The set, the African bush. The scriptwriter and producer, Mother Nature.
Last time on Wildlife Diary, the wild dogs moved house. Brothers Cobra and Shungu scented love in the air. Yanina's cubs showed themselves to be fit and healthy. And Zero stamped his authority on sub-adults Luma and Limu. The researchers report that Cobra and Shungu wait patiently for Menandi to accept their advances. With the success of Melissa's litter, the hope is that Menandi might just pull it off this time. Melissa herself had a long string of litter failures before introducing 3 healthy cubs to the Korongwe. The youngsters are fast approaching the age when their grey birth mantle will disappear completely, revealing their adult markings. This time, Luma is in a bad way. Tashinga and Tia share and share alike. Biggles is also wrong-footed. And the elephants struggle to find a big enough patch of water. The pride has wandered over to the Mafunyani since Zero got nasty with the sub-adults. It's the end of a dry winter. Already the days flirt with temperatures in the region of 35 degrees Celsius. The heat put Zero off his meal. The sub-adults look for comfortable spots to rest up. Water is scarce. The whole of the Korongwe yearns for the first of the spring rains. Zero half-heartedly finishes off his kill. Lions typically lick their victims all over before embarking on the meal. Lisa takes advantage of the fact that Zero is occupied with softening up the zebra. She steals across to Luma by way of checking up on him. Lately, Zero hasn't allowed much contact between the sub-adults and their mother, which is why Lisa takes every opportunity to be with them. She soon moves away. It's not worth the risk of raising Zero's ire. Limo stays firmly put, even though he could do with a piece of fresh zebra. At last, Zero does the honors. He starts with the stomach in true lion fashion. The heat becomes unbearable, forcing Limu down to the river. An afternoon storm blows up. Could this signal the end of the dry season? Limu pauses in his trek. Perhaps he won't need to get to the river after all. Luma decides to follow his brother to the water. The reason for Lisa's concern becomes apparent. The young male is in a lot of pain. Limu watches helplessly. Luma must get to the water's edge on his own. The researchers speculate that a run-in with Zero caused the injury. As the sun sets in the absence of any rain, Zero lets everyone know who's in charge here. Pain and thirst gnaw at Luma. Max starts a boisterous game with Limu, but the heat has made him irritable. Maggie's warning to Limu gets Zero on the prowl. Luma senses a potential skirmish and hobbles towards his brother. Perhaps if the two of them present a united front against Zero, he might stand down. Moby is oblivious to the tension. Limo responds to Luma's overtures with unbrotherly annoyance. Zero isn't going anywhere. He psychs himself up for his routine confrontation with the sub-adults. Max badly times an attempt to start a game. Maggie joins Zero in the scrap. The adults retreat as Luma fights back. Zero is outraged. Never has a sub-adult resisted his authority like this. He vocalizes his fury, trying to intimidate anyone who'll listen. Zero completes his display with a territory-marking ritual. But beneath his confident exterior, he senses there's a new game in town. Limu takes note of the events. If the injured Luma on his own can stand up to Zero, the two young males together might be invincible. Will Zero be able to maintain his position as Pride leader? Coming up, Tashinga and Tia dine out together. And Biggles puts on a brave face despite an injury. Last time, Yanina showed off her successful litter. Both cubs have grown into fine young carnivores. It won't be long before they make their own way in the world. But as always, the worry remains. How will they fare against other leopards and competing predators? But Yanina is not the only mother to have raised a pair of thriving cubs.
Okay, well, tonight we're on the banks of the Korongwe River. This is the heart of Tashinga's territory. She spends 90% of her time right in the river, so we don't often see her. But tonight we've been lucky. We're literally 10 meters away from a carcass, a kudu carcass. It's unknown of how it got killed. It's difficult to determine at the moment. It's well decomposed already. Now at the moment we have got Tia feeding. Tia's feeding. One of the cubs, the female cubs, are lying at the top. And Tashinga's in the area. We haven't seen the other cub or Tashinga. But we're going to monitor this and see where this goes. Maybe we get a bit of interaction between the predators. However, no other hyenas in the area. Tia hasn't called the others. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Ivan doesn't have to wait too long. Tia couldn't care less about the possibility of a leopard getting involved in her evening. The cat takes it very slowly. No need to rush in just yet. Still, Tia feeds unconcerned.
There's another leopard coming in. It's Tashinga.
Tashinga stands in full view of the hyena. If ever there was a recipe for excitement, this must be it. Two mortal enemies both desiring the same object.
She's literally standing 2 meters away from Tia. And no reaction from both of them. And this is incredible.
Nothing happens. For the amount of friction between the two, they could be a couple of old friends dining out together. Tashinga tires of this spectator sport. Tia hasn't even acknowledged her presence, let alone shown any nervousness. The leopard moves away. Tangling with those powerful jaws would not be wise. Tia's just about had enough, but she's reluctant to leave the spoils behind. The hyena gives up. This is the moment the cats have been waiting for. They wait for Tia to safely exit the picture, and in the secret language of the night, Tashinga signals that the coast is clear. Immediately, one of her cubs moves onto the carcass. A second cub also emerges from the shadows. Their mother keeps a watchful eye on proceedings. The second cub ignores the carcass. This explains Tashinga's softly approach to Tia. The family must have fed very recently. No one is particularly hungry. Even the cub on the carcass can't manage more than a few mouthfuls. The youngster leaves to rejoin his family without even a backward glance. Under normal circumstances, the leopards would have treed the carcass and returned later. But even though everyone has eaten their fill, the remains are still too heavy to store. Like Giannina, the shy Tashinga has managed to bring her own litter safely to a point where they're just about ready to strike out on their own. The cubs will, in time, try to establish and defend their territories, but they always run the risk of conflict with their father, Rolani. Or will there be a showdown with Rolani's young male competitor? It was Alf who spotted the new den site in the Mandulia section. The wild dog's old home had become a bit smelly and unsafe. He and Duchess excavated a number of entrances to the Aardvark burrow, and the whole family moved in without incident. The heat of the Kurungwe night brings Alf to the riverside for a drink and a mud bath. He considers having this old acquaintance for dinner. But the 3-year-old Impala stands his ground. Without Duchess and Biggles to support him, Alf is a bit out of his depth here. And he knows it. Nevertheless, he gathers his wits for another shot at the prize. Alf looks for a gap. But the Impala is no fool. The antelope continually orientates his body to face the dog, presenting the narrowest of targets. The next morning, the pups asked the same question they do every day. Where's the food? If Alf had been successful last night, the pack would have awoken with a meal already organized. Now the adults must brave the heat and prepare to hunt. The pups are not yet old enough to tag along on the hunt. They'll start participating at about 14 months of age. This will boost the killing machine from 3 to 9, making the pack almost invincible. Biggles doesn't know it yet, but one day he might well face a challenge to his leadership from one of his own male offspring. The runt, Miss Penny, once again lands up at the bottom of the pile. After last night's excitement, Alf needs a bit longer to warm up. The pups wait patiently for a result as the adults set off. Biggles' leisurely pace is deceptive. He's operating on maximum information input, using all his senses to scan the terrain for potential. Alf has managed to wake up properly. He joins the other two who've detected a scent that might pay off. Biggles takes the lead, but there's something awkward about his stride. He appears to have a mild sprain. Before long, the beast is down and the pups are summoned to the kill site. The youngsters still can't tear off chunks of flesh on their own. They hover anxiously about the carcass, waiting for the adults to do the job. Blood-stained heads mean happy, full puppies. The heat of the Karongwe day will soon put pay to any romping. Rising temperatures lure Duchess to the river for a drink. These banks normally overlook a full, strongly flowing channel. The dog is very wary of encountering crocodiles in these shallows. The hunters worsen Biggles' sprain. Alf notes the injury with interest. The limp renders him just about useless in any future hunt. It also weakens his leadership position in the pack. Alf's awareness of this dynamic poses a threat to Biggles. Will Alf challenge for the top dog spot? Will Biggles stand up to him in spite of his injury? Will Duchess accept the result of the leadership struggle? Coming up, the Karongwe elephants make the best of the fast-vanishing water resources. The Mafanyani section recently witnessed a Flippy feeling very pleased with himself. Madala came into must and left the bachelor herd seeking a cow in estrus as an outlet for his madness. This removed the only check to Flippy's rampant ego. The young bull took full advantage of Madala's absence to assert himself among the bulls, and it worked. Without Madala, Flippy is the chosen one. Talifa's child grows from strength to strength. The healthy little boy does not share the adult's concern at the dangerously low water levels in the rivers. Elephants need 160 liters a day. But the baby has all his liquid requirements on tap, so to speak. The heat drives Flippy, Mr. M and Fumbe down to the riverbed. They wander from one muddy patch to the next in search of drinking water and bathing spots. Flippy reinforces his dominant status, making sure he gets first pick of any new mud pool. The lions also feel the heat acutely and hang around the riverside. Fumbe helps Mr. M out with a refreshing layer of cool mud. For himself, he decides that full immersion is the only way to escape the heat. The back of an elephant's ear contains a network of large blood vessels just below the surface. Mr. M's ear flapping cools the blood supply to his brain. Zero may be at the top of the food chain, but even he won't take on an elephant. The lead cows of the female herd come down to gauge the safety of the river environment. Nikita, the matriarch, knows that Zero poses little threat to her group, providing they keep their calves in check. The antelope might not be as fortunate. The signal goes out, and the rest of the herd arrives with the young ones firmly shielded in the center. The baby still has not learned how to use its trunk to drink and must get his mouth down to the puddle. Drinking and bathing are very pleasurable social events, accompanied by happy rumblings and squeaks. Maggie doesn't share their delight. She roars her frustration at being unable to drink while the elephants have their fun. The elephants respond almost tauntingly. Young Shao thought he was being very clever sneaking off to his own private mud bath. But the secret is soon discovered, and the herd comes over to take the plunge. In the excitement, the herd neglects Talifa's child for a moment, putting him in danger. In his haste to follow the older calves in, the little one nearly tumbles off the bank. Nikita decides enough is enough, and the herd returns to the bush. The lions have taken note of the baby. If they're to make a meal of him, they'll have to pick him off before he's much older. But will the cows ever relax their guard long enough for this to happen? Next time on Wildlife Diary, Lisa needs peace and quiet to give birth. Rolani gets to meet Yanina's cubs. The wild dogs fail on a hunt, but then encounter some good fortune. And a new bull elephant arrives on the Karongwe. The researchers report that Cobra and Chungu wait patiently for Menandi to accept their advances. With the success of Melissa's litter, the hope is that Menandi might just pull it off this time. Melissa herself had a long string of litter failures before introducing 3 healthy cubs to the Korongwe.
"24-hour cameras, wildlife sitcom and drama, emotional cliffhangers, reality TV at its best. The difference? The actors, African wildlife. The set, the African bush. The scriptwriter and producer, Mother Nature."
Last time on Wildlife Diary, the wild dogs moved house. Brothers Cobra and Chungu scented love in the air. Yanina's cubs showed themselves to be fit and healthy. And Zero stamped his authority on sub-adults Luma and Limu. Barking on the meal. Lisa takes advantage of the fact that Zero is occupied with softening up the zebra. She steals across to Luma by way of checking up on him. Lately, Zero hasn't allowed much contact between the sub-adults and their mother, which is why Lisa takes every opportunity to be with them. She soon moves away. It's not worth the risk of raising Zero's ire. The youngsters are fast approaching the age when their grey birth mantle will disappear completely, revealing their adult markings. This time, Luma is in a bad way. Tashinga and Tia share and share alike. Biggles is also wrong-footed. And the elephants struggle to find a big enough patch of water. The pride has wandered over to the Mafunyani since Zero got nasty with the sub-adults. It's the end of a dry winter. Already the days flirt with temperatures in the region of 35 degrees Celsius. The heat puts Zero off his meal. The sub-adults look for comfortable spots to rest up. Water is scarce. The whole of the Korongwe yearns for the first of the spring rains. Zero half-heartedly finishes off his kill. Lions typically lick their victims all over before